Welcome back to Which on the Holy Night I Say with a smile on my face. We missed last week, but it's back. And of course, I missed it because I was sick. But this time, the only thing that's wrong with me is that there's something torn in my knee. But we don't have to talk about that. All right? Where did I put my controller's on the floor? Give me a second. Yeah. So I'm still coughing a bit, but we should be fine. We should be okay. It's been a minute. Oh my, there's the coughing. It's been a minute, but I think I'm ready. I missed it. Hearing this music brings me back. It brings me back to those times. I miss Alice. I miss Alko. I miss Sojiro. I miss them. So it's time to hop back in from where we left off. I don't remember completely. I think we left off on a bookmark, right? This one, correct? It's been since the 3rd. Are you serious? It's this one, correct? Early next morning. A caller for a present. Oh, my bad. Okay. Please move, if you don't mind. There you go. Early next morning. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. Most people were still in their beds sleeping. Although some 24-hour convenience stores had opened last year, Misaki Town was still very much living in the good old days of the early 80s. Even the tofu shop in the shopping district, known for opening earlier than everywhere else, didn't open until 6. But this was the late 80s, during the latter half of Japan's bubble economy. It was a time when metropolitan areas never slept. Those in the countryside, however, remained in the past. The homes were blanketed in silence, the streets were empty of commuters, and not a single automobile could be heard. The sun was just barely peeking over the horizon. The town would still be asleep for at least an hour longer before it began waking up. It was during this time that someone stepped into the Koonji estate. Sojiro was working the late shift during winter vacation and had just come home. He moved quietly through the drawing room so he wouldn't wake up Alko and Alice, who were presumably still asleep. The Koonji estate had a few established rules. One of those rules forbade more Japanese tea. Okay? This new rule had only came into effect 3 days prior. It was proposed after Alice saw Sojiro drinking green tea in the kitchen after dinner one night.
Oh?
Looking back on it, the decision had been made rather abruptly. Whoa, I don't remember how to play this game. There you go. I don't know. It felt like Circle was too good. You know, like Circle or B. That felt like it was too much of the right answer. So I doubted myself, but I shouldn't have. That single gasp of surprise was all Alice said. She grasped her head as if she was battling the most vicious of migraines, called for Alko, and then made the decision to ban all Japanese teas from the mansion. By some miracle, Alko managed to negotiate to keep Sojiro's privileges to barley tea during the summer.
だいたいイギリス産だって初めはグリーンティーが主流だったじゃない。
Alko had clearly hit a nerve with this argument. Alko stared at Alice, fairly certain why she was taken aback. Okay, by Sojiro's actions. I don't know why. I have no clue why she's taking it. What's happening?
そこまで嫌がらなくてもな。お茶はなんだって美味しいのに。
Sojiro grumbled to himself while sipping his hot green tea. We're back. Oh my god, it feels like we're back. How can missing 1 week feel like this insane? I feel like I'm at home. Like I feel like I'm back home, man. Hey. Oh man, I missed this game so much. This visual novel is amazing. That being said, he didn't realize that Alice was upset because he had poured his green tea into a teacup meant for black tea. In Sojiro's defense, this was the only teacup that Alice had given him permission to use. At any rate, the early morning was his to enjoy. This was his moment to relax with the Japanese tea set he'd smuggled in. He didn't use this time to read books or watch TV. He just drank his tea and gazed fondly at the garden, or rather, the dense woods outside. Sojiro simply sat, relaxed, and let his mind wander. About an hour passed. Just as he was beginning to feel refreshed, he heard sounds coming from the foyer. Oh my lord, this music! Let me know! Tell me who you are. Oh my god. He knew it was Alco and Alice talking, so he rushed to hide his teacup, teapot, and tea leaves in the kitchen. Hiding the contraband was easy enough, considering just how many unused shelves there were in the kitchen. Sojiro was perturbed by how they wasted the potential of such a splendid kitchen.
あら
Oh no, she's worn that outfit before. Alco spoke as she took off her white down jacket. Next to her, Alice silently took off her black coat.
いや今帰ってきたんだ天城浜の職
The music is louder than the voices, isn't it? Oh,
その
oh. Alright, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you guys. I knew it. Listen to me. The music in this game is fire. Like, it's really good. So sometimes, and I mean, don't get mad at me, okay? Often, every day, I hop on the visual novel and I just listen to the music for hours. Like, I just have it playing in the background, whether I'm reading or like doing whatever I'm doing. The music's good. Can you blame me? I'm sorry. All right. But we're back. The audio should be better. Luckily, I'm using OBS, Open Broadcasting Software, so I can edit it while recording. Amazing. Shout out to that. You guys want to get back to the video. I got you. It's all good. I understand. Sojiro stuck his head out from the kitchen and gestured that he was about to put on some water to boil. Alice tilted her head slightly at him. It wasn't that she thought his gesturing was funny or anything like that.
天城浜から
Amagi-hama. Amagi, like, Yukiko? Alice glanced up at the clock in the drawing room, and her expression darkened.
どうしたのアリス
Alco asked this from her comfortable seat on the sofa.
別に
Betsuni. Alice responded indifferently before finally sitting down as well.
宗十郎砂糖は一杯だけだからね
Alco yelled her matter-of-course request to the kitchen. Sojiro didn't respond, but it was an affirmative silence. This was the result of 2 entire nights' worth of cramming that Alice knew nothing about.
アリスは
私はミルクだけでいいけど
Alice responded out of obligation.
了解ミルクティーだね
For some reason, I was just about to say that. For some reason, Sojiro dutifully answered Alice's request.
まいいけどいちいち突っ込んでたらキリがないしそれより珍しいじゃないアリスがティーバッグのお茶飲むなんて
今日は疲れたからたまには
It seemed she had allowed herself to accept another's kindness, at least for today.
ふーんまいいかそれより宗十郎あんたさっきお菓子のこと言わなかった
え別に言ってないぞそんなこと
そうならいいんだけど
The two were conversing over a distance of 4 yards. Alice decided... Sorry. Mucus. Alice decided to add her opinion to the conversation.
しずきくんがおかしなことを言わない日はないと思うわ私
Very fair. Her quiet tone was luckily just low enough that Sojiro couldn't hear her from the kitchen.
そりゃそうだけど今ちょっと変だったでしょいや何が引っかかったのかまではわからないんだけどさ
そうね会話自体は普通だったけれど内容を考えてみるとどこかおかしいわね
Ako became gradually more irritated as she failed to grasp what had been odd about the conversation. Just then, Sojiro appeared holding a tray with a teacup for each of them.
何を話してるんだ単に新しいアルバイトを始めただけだろ
He put the cups down on the black table without even making the slightest sound. Alice couldn't complain about how proper his job as a waiter had made him. While she didn't say anything out loud, she did nod in his direction to show some gratitude. Alco, however,
天城浜だっけ？あそこってスタジアムがあるところでしょ？ツアーの会場になるから時々行くけど。
the student council president, a supposed model student, loved rock bands. Alco was secretly obsessed with a number of bands and used to travel way out of town just to see them perform live when she was in middle school. I want to be like her when I grow up. Of course, this was a world that Sojiro was far from familiar with.
それよりまた新しいバイト始めたんだ。そんなに働いてどうする気なのよ、宗十郎は。
ああ、よく聞いてくれたね。本人の名誉のために名前は伏せるけど、誰かさんと誰かさんが俺の少ない収入を無慈悲に奪っていくから働く先を増やしたんだ。
This was as much resistance as Sojiro was able to give. Alco lifted up her teacup to her mouth as if she was completely oblivious to Sojiro's monologue.
それは大変ね。
Alice said this as she set her teacup down quietly. There were some things she just did not understand. Alco had to hold back her laughter as she looked at Alice and Sojiro.
言った自分が未熟だった。
Sojiro's shoulders fell as he said this. He took a sip of his black tea, still unaware about the taste.
まあ、アルバイトが多いって分かってくれるだけでいいか。
Probably shouldn't ask this now in the middle of the video, but if they were to release Tsukihime, my bad, in the West, translated just like this one, should I also do a video series on that? I really like doing these Witch on the Holy Night videos. I love recording them at night, listening to the music, reading. It's very nice. It's very nice. And I know that it's been showing a lot of support, a lot more than I could have ever thought. Like 50 views on any of these is like, wow, you guys are there. But Tsukihime is probably gonna be way more like crazy stuff. Like this is still subtle. Like the magic stuff isn't really all up in our face yet. I feel like with Witch on our Tsukihime, Moon Princess, that's gonna go nuts. Like I feel like every second it's gonna be like deep lore. I don't know, maybe not. But we'll see.
そういったわけだから、冬休み中は夜も留守にする。例の薬はアルバイト先で飲むしかないんだけど。
ああ、それなら心配いらないわ。もうあれはやめたから。いちいち作るのも面倒だし、もっとしずきくんに似合うのを見つけてきたの。
Alco had a huge, ominous grin on her face. She put her hand into her jacket pocket and pulled out a little paper bag. It was a small circular object about 20 inches in diameter, wrapped up nicely, like a present.
はい、これは入居祝い。これからはそれをつけておくのよ、宗十郎。
Sojiro opened the paper bag. Inside was a white belt, but it wasn't a belt for putting around your waist to keep your pants up. It was as clearly as possible. It was a collar. Holy. Alice's expression darkened at this turn of events, but it wasn't clear whether it was her friend's or sympathy for Sojiro that concerned her.
どう？気に入った？
Alco was clearly a little crazy. At least she wasn't totally serious. It was obvious that it was at least half a prank to just see how Sojiro would react. But Sojiro was solemnly considering the collar had just been a gift.
意味はつかみかねるけど、こういうものを人からもらうのはこれが初めてだ。
He actually sounded like this would be a happy memory for him. This music. Stop it. I left for a week. Chill. Whoo! You're telling me this music does not hit your soul, guys. You're telling me this music does not hit your soul. Like, why do I even have to record? Can I just let the music play? Like, can we just let the music play for 2 hours and call it an episode? Oh, man. And it gets better, doesn't it? Oh, my God. Yo, the crazy thing about this series is, like, a year from now, I'm going to be looking back on this and listening to this music, and I'm going to start tearing up. I can just tell it's going to be one of those series. I can tell it's going to be one of those series. Like, the music alone is just gonna hit me so hard and bring me back to. Oh my God! How am I supposed to continue? Oh! You guys hear the music? Bro, I'm telling you, because right now I'm feeling it. I'm telling you, a year from now, maybe even 4 months, 6. I'm going to be listening to this music and it's going to hit me in my soul. My heart will break. I know it. Alice narrowed her eyes at what was transpiring. Is he wearing gloves?
けど、
Oh,
これは
gloves.
何に使うんだ？
簡単よ。金庫寺と同じで飼い犬が主人に逆らうと首を絞めるの。あっちは頭につけてたけど、それよりは首のがマシでしょ。
Sojiro grimaced when he finally understood Alko's mean-spirited gift. He really wanted to ask her what kind of person comes up with such an evil idea.
つまり、秘密をばらしたり逆らったりしたら首が締まると。やっぱり熱でもあるんじゃないのか、青崎は。
あら、首輪は嫌？せっかく宗十郎に似合いそうなものを見つけたのに。
Ako still had an evil grin on her face, but Sojiro had a surprising response to the gift that Ako had clearly gotten as a prank.
それもそうか。毎日毒を飲むよりはマシだし、このベルト自体いいものだし。うん、気に入った。ありがとう、青崎。
He spoke 100% truthfully. Ako's face contorted in disbelief, and she could only mumble if he was serious.
人の行為はどんなものだって嬉しいよ。それに、それが青崎ならなおさらだ。
And with that, Sojiro put the belt around his neck. He placed it over the bandages already
こん
there.
な感じかな。きついけど、そのうち慣れるだろう。
Alice looks so concerned. Like, is this dude even human? Like, she looks so concerned. Despite his words to the contrary, Sojiro tugged at the belt uncomfortably and adjusted it. It was such a perverse scene that when Alko's face was red as a beet, even though this had all been her idea. Perhaps it was because it gave her such a clear reminder of the scars she had seen the day before.
よし、止め方はこれでいいのか。
ね、
Alko retreated guiltily as Sojiro came closer for her to check the fit of his new collar.
と思ってちゃわからないのに。いいよ、アリスに聞くから。
Sojiro shifted his gaze from Alko to Alice. Alice stared intently at Sojiro wearing his new collar and said,
ロックね。青子、趣味に走りすぎよ。
She could not have put it any more bluntly.
いや、やかましい。そんなんじゃない。もういい。とにかくそういうことよ。これからはその首輪が薬の代わりよ。せいぜい秘密を守ることね。
Alko was oddly apathetic as she spoke before stomping off towards. Empathic? Emphatic? Okay. Emphatic, something like that. It's like, I don't know. Stomping off towards the hallway.
それと、これからお昼まで仮眠を取るけど、くだらないことで起こしたら殺すから。
Alko slammed the door behind her as she left the drawing room. Sojiro stared in amazement.
なんで青崎はいつもいきなり怒るんだろ
He murmured to himself, forgetting that Alice was standing right there in front of him.
しずきくんには悪意が通じないからでしょう。気にする必要はないわ。
う。悪意って今のが
Alice looked up at Sojiro's innocent response. There was a glimmer in her eyes that showed surprise at her current actions.
なんでもないから気にしないで。
With that terse reply, she returned to her usual expression of self. There was no use explaining Ako's feelings. Ako bought that collar for the sole purpose of annoying Sojiro and causing mischief. When things didn't turn out how she planned, her conscience got the better of her. Sojiro mistakenly thought that Ako was angry at him, when in reality, she was only angry at herself. Alice didn't bother telling Sojiro all these heartwarming details, though. Not because it was too much work, just because she was never one to have a meaningless conversation. That was how she had been raised.
しずきくんはこれからどうするの？
Alice suddenly changed the topic. Sojiro thought for a while before replying.
夕方までゆっくりするよ。ここのところ忙しすぎた。せっかくだからテレビも見ていたいし、お昼には青崎を起こさないといけないだろ。
そう。なら静かにしていて。
Alice let out a gentle sigh and rose to her feet. Just keep it quiet. Sojiro would understand exactly what she meant by those words in just a few minutes. The sun shining through the window was bright. It was just about 9 o'clock, about time for the morning television programs to get going. Sojiro was sitting on the sofa, staring out the window at a scene outside. The view from the neighboring sunroom showed a courtyard and a statue of disrepair. What is going on my screen right now? What's happening? I'm confused. Why is there a sofa just popping up? Sojiro could appreciate the outdoors in both its natural, wild state and when tamed by human
あれ
hands.
は近いうちになんとかせねばなるまい。
Sojiro muttered to himself, turning another page in his textbook. On the table before him was the mathematics textbook and a notebook with Alko's name on it. Although at first glance he appeared to be a diligent student studying on his day off, he was in truth doing so as a compromise. He had given up on his main intent of watching the morning television shows. The reason he gave up was simple. He was being considerate of Alice, who sat in front of him with her nose buried in a book. Instead of holding herself up in her room, she'd brought out her old, dusty books to read. This is what she meant when she said to keep quiet. Sojiro found it difficult to turn on the TV.
とりあえずしばらくテレビは控えよ
With that decided, Sojiro resigned himself to reviewing some of the practice problems he had gotten wrong. In the drawing room, for some reason, there wasn't any particular reason or purpose in doing it there, but he had also no real reason to study back up in his room. And so there he was, leisurely highlighting in his textbook with Alice there in the same room. To Sojiro, there was no difference between his room in the attic and the drawing room with Alice. To be fair, he could probably live with a tiger as long as he didn't cause any trouble. That was both Sojiro's biggest strength and his biggest weakness. Before he knew it, the clock was slowing 11. He'd spent 2 hours doing his math problems, but wasn't even halfway finished. More than that, he was disappointed in himself for lacking the courage to speak up at all.
それに比べて青崎は頑張ってる
He dropped his mechanical pencil onto the notebook and watched it roll away. He knew that Alco and Alice were busy with something since the final exams had ended. He also knew that she had hardly gotten any sleep recently. If she had been able to ignore him during exams, she probably would have had an easier time. Today's nap was probably the first proper sleep Alco had gotten in days. Though she showed no signs of exhaustion, despite the fact that she must have hit peak long ago. She always seemed raring to go. It wasn't that she was trying to act tough. That was just the kind of person she was. Always positive, always tough as nails. That was exactly why she came off as completely irrational at times. But if that's the case, or that was the case, you could probably describe Alice in exactly the same way. Sojiro couldn't help but feel a bit inadequate when he saw their single-minded focus on their goals. He's been so preoccupied with adjusting to his new life that he neglected to think about what he was going to do with himself after. Thinking about this cast a gloomy cloud over his heart. He felt like he'd never find a clear purpose in life like Alco and Alice seemed to have. At least, not since he left the mountains. His old life was gone now, never to return. He was like a kite cut from a string, destined to fly only where the winds took it. And without anything to ground him, he couldn't do anything about the empty future that lay ahead. He could only let himself fly where the currents took him, slowly losing sight of the ground below.
そうだな。便利なものは溢れているけど、本当に望むものは。
The town was full of options, but he could find nothing. He'd asked himself the same question time and time again. It never made him feel any better. If anything, it only made him feel worse and worse. That, or maybe he felt that lamenting his own ineptitude would lead to finding some kind of goal or desires from there. Tired of his own Sojiro dejectedly closed his notebook. When he looked up, he saw his own face reflected back at him in the TV screen. His new collar was there around his neck, looking as out of place as ever. Perhaps a fool like him, who felt weak when faced with others' strengths, did need to wear a collar after all.
まったくだ。悩むのは一丁前になってから。
He shook off his thoughts of doom and gloom and sat up straight. After psyching himself up a little, he stood up from the sofa.
よし。何か作るけど、アリスは？
Sojiro asked casually. While Sojiro had been doing his own thing, he had remained mindful of Alice. Alice looked up, surprised at hearing her name. She had completely forgotten Sojiro was even there.
私
ああ。アリス、朝から紅茶しか飲んでないだろ。どうせ作るなら、いっぱい作った方がお得なんだ。
Without waiting for her reply, Sojiro headed off to the kitchen while putting on his apron. Alice tried to wave at him. I'm sorry. Wave at him to stop. But by then, he'd already disappeared into the kitchen. She was hesitant to walk all the way in there just to tell him she didn't need anything. And besides, she was actually hungry. Sojiro's proposal made sense, and her empty stomach agreed. Alice was hungry, and Sojiro was going to make lunch. Making lunch for both of them would save the time and trouble of cooking 2 separate meals. There was no logical reason for Alice to refuse his gesture. She decided to stay quiet and tactfully accept his offer.
変な人
Another emote, may I say? No, okay. She whispered the words softly, not for anyone in particular to hear by herself. The truth was, however, Alice had been in a bad mood all morning. After checking all the sigils around Misaki City and boarding the first train back to Tokawa? Toukawa? All she wanted to do was spend the rest of her day reading until the words turned into a jumble. Her iron resolve to complete this task would not be interrupted by someone else milling about in the drawing room. This was her mansion, and there was no way she was going to lock herself up in her room on account of Sojiro. However, with that said, she knew it would be wrong to kick Sojiro out for no real reason. As it stood, these people were talking about right and wrong? Okay, crazy. As it stood, Sojiro had actually kept quiet like she'd asked. He wasn't in the wrong here. Alice had really wanted to be alone, but she should have gone to her room.
静かにしてじゃなくて一人にさせてという
Alice had defiantly stayed in the drawing room despite realizing the dilemma she put herself in. She had figured Sojiro would eventually make a ruckus and run off to hide in his attic. Her assumption could not have been more wrong. Sojiro never left the drawing room. Moreover, she had actually stopped caring that he was there. Though he hadn't paid her any attention, he hadn't ignored her either. They had simply sat in silence together without any awkwardness. Alice felt the freedom of being alone along with the comfort of someone being by her side. To put it into words, Sojiro was just that kind of person. That was probably the only reason Alice had been able to sleep so soundly with him right next to her. Sojiro continued cooking in the kitchen, oblivious to the thoughts that went through Alice's head. She couldn't see him from the drawing room, but she could easily imagine him cooking in the kitchen.
変な人ね本当に
Alice resumed reading after unwittingly stating her feelings out loud a second time. The sunlight beaming into the drawing room showed that it was noon. The sunlight actually looked warm, despite it being a cloudy winter day. Y'all mind if I just get a little comfortable real quick? Y'all don't mind. Edit. Just as noon struck, Sojiro returned to the drawing room with two sets of plates. Some food of an indescribable color was piled on a large cream-colored plates. Whoa.
これは
New song? Hey. She's surprised to see actual good food. She hadn't expected much. And since she also hadn't requested anything, she could just refuse if something she didn't want. But this food left her at a loss for words, despite psyching herself up.
これは何
It's that good stuff. Alice spoke as though she was terrified of what had been placed before her. Why does his face look like that? Stir-fried udon noodles. Girl, it looks good. If Alco had been there, she probably would have punched him. What? But Sojiro just confidently placed two large plates on the table. Steam billowed from the mountain of food like an angry volcano, ready to erupt at any moment. It looks good! The thick mystery sauce flowed over the plates as magma might from a said eruption. That sounds so good. And below it were a seemingly infinite number of slimy tentacle-like noodles. There was really nothing more to say about it. I'm sorry, give me a second. See, this is why I didn't record Witch on the Holy Night last week, because I was very sick. Like, this I'm mildly, I guess. Like, it's just whenever I start talking a lot, I start coughing. I didn't want to pause every 3 seconds to cough or anything, but it seems like it's happening anyway, so we'll deal with it as we go. This is clearly the food of a poor, struggling student who favored quantity over quality. Like, you guys aren't struggling too. You guys have to order takeout every day, right? Did you see the meal? You guys had like bread for like, didn't they eat literal just slices of bread earlier? Because that's all they had. The rich people, all they had was slices of bread because they couldn't cook. All that was required was a basic recipe. Recipe? What the heck? The will to cook something and what few ingredients were needed. The pile of stir-fried noodles with sauce slathered on top was so horrifically bad, it was almost an art form. this was a bachelor's cooking, if she'd ever seen it. Does it really look that bad to you? There was really nothing else you could call it. Damn. She had wondered what he was doing for an hour in there, and it turned out he had been making this sauce. No sauce would have been fine, but Sojiro had wholeheartedly gone the extra mile. Wow. Sojiro bowed his head slightly and picked up his chopsticks. He had brought a fork for Alice. The England girl. She picked up the fork and stuck it into the noodles, half drowning it in the sauce. Sojiro began eating, not seeming to care that Alice sat there looking like she was about to eat poison. What is up with this chapter? Seeming to view this as a challenge, Alice forwarded her brow and sat slowly. Wait, what? Freeform reading, guys. You know me. And slowly brought the mass of noodles to her mouth. Slowly. Where is that? It was a little salty and ugly to look at, but it didn't taste all that bad. If anything, it was actually good. Don't doubt my boy Sojiro. Sojiro put down his chopsticks and turned to speak to Alice.
実際の話、魔術師の話はともかくとして、青崎はまだ誰にも手を出してないんじゃないか。
Alice looked up quietly at the sudden question. She had been inspecting Sojiro's meal, but now she looked straight at him.
おかしなことを聞くのね。
I don't think it is. It looks like she ain't got that killer instinct in her, if you know what I mean.
アリスには悪いけど、これは青崎本人には聞きようのないことだから、言いたくなければ答えないでくれ。
Alice didn't respond. Sojiro resumed eating, not seeming disappointed. Alice stared blankly at him slurping his noodles. After much hesitation, she replied.
しずきくんの言う通り、青子はまだ人を殺したことはないわ。その行為自体は何回かこなしてはいるけれど。
Alice's response was slow and measured. Sojiro still looked troubled, but not at the conversation they were having. Rather, he looked apologetic towards Alice. He'd said she didn't have to answer if she didn't want to, but Alice kept talking despite the face he was making.
しずきくんが見た公園での出来事が青子にとって初めての殺人行為よ。あいにく相手は人形だったけど。
Sojiro silently nodded. Alice narrowed her eyes at him suspiciously.
まるで初めから分かっていたそぶりね。
そうじゃな。いや、そうなのかな。たまにその手のセリフを言うけど、何か違う気がしたんだ。だから多分、青崎はまだ人殺しというのを体験していないんじゃないかって。でもまあ、そんなことよりもっと確かなのは、
しずきくんが今生きているということね。
Sojiro chuckled at Alice's stellar response. Exactly. Things would have been more clear-cut that night if Ako had actually killed someone before. Sojiro would have been dead before he even saw her face. For better or for worse, Ako remained inexperienced in spite of her ruthlessness and decisiveness. Sojiro relaxed his shoulders. His stern face gradually returned to its normal carefree state. Then,
でもそんなことは関係ないわ。あの子はそのあたりが異常だから。行為は理性に、経験は知識でたやすく補ってしまう。そうね。青子はその気になれば迷うことなく人の命に手を出せる。
and with that, Alice went back to twirling noodles around her fork. I love the character model so much. She looked like she was having fun. Sojiro thought as he ruminated over what she just said. She was rational enough to accept herself, despite acting against society's morals, and possessed of an intellect that wait, what? And possessed. Okay, that says possessed of an intellect that exceeded. Why would you say "and possessed of an intellect"? Possessed an intellect that exceeded even the confidence gained through experience. Had Alko been raised to utilize her logic and reasoning to forge reality from fiction? If that was the case, then perhaps they really were different from
す
Sojiro.
まない。こんなことを聞いたのは青崎には内緒にしておいてくれないか。
Sojiro seemed serious, as if he really regretted asking. Alice's expression remained unchanged, but she had never intended on saying anything to Alko anyway.
ありがとう。なんだかアリスには内緒話ばかり溜まっていくね。
Sojiro went back to eating his food. Though Alice had still only had a single bite, he was already scraping
そうい
his
えば
food.
青崎にも聞いたんだけど、アリスと青崎はいつもああなのか？
Sojiro had suddenly decided to change the topic of conversation. His new topic was rather cold and dry relationship between Alko and Alice. Alko said the relationship was normal, but maybe Alice had a different opinion.
会話が少ないことを言っているのならそうなるわ。けど別に不便じゃないから。
Alice was still twirling noodles with her fork as she gave her concise answer. Around and around the noodles went, but none made it into her mouth.
不便じゃないって、そういうの仲がいいって言わないんじゃないのか？
私と青子の仲が良くないとしずきくんは困るの？
Sojiro swallowed his words at Alice's perplexed reply. It would, actually, but he wasn't sure how to respond when she asked her
いや、
directly.
なんかこっちの考え方が悪かったみたいだ。もうその話題には触れないことにしたから忘れてくれ。それより、アリス。
Sojiro gave Alice a piercing stare that was more intense than any time they talked before. Alice was taken slightly aback at the unusual intense look in his eyes. Her face became slightly flushed out of nervousness. Nobody besides Alko had ever stared at her like this before. Whether or not he noticed, Sojiro waited a few moments before speaking slowly, with complete conviction.
それ、食べないなら欲しいんだけど。
We all knew it was gonna be something stupid. Like we all knew that. Like you're not Tight Moon. Like come on. Like your storytelling is amazing, but you're not slick. All right, you're telegraphing. We all saw it coming. An awkward silence followed.
悪いけどこれ私のだから。
Suzuki had cooked it, sure, but Alice wasn't wrong. He had made it for her after all. There was a slight tinge of anger in her voice, but even she wasn't sure why it was there.
そうだね。少し意地汚かった。
Sojiro plopped himself down on the sofa. This must have looked particularly pathetic to Alice since she responded with,
その材料はもう残ってないの？
She quickly covered her mouth. Apparently she had surprised even herself. It was quite unusual for her to ask something like that.
残ってないよ。青崎の分も作っちゃったから。
Sojiro stared a bit regretfully at Alice's plate as he responded. Alice could have just let it go, but for some reason, she felt the need to speak up again.
青子なら眠っているけど。
いや、もうすぐ起こすから。起きた後で作らされるより一緒に作っておいた方が楽だしね。と、もうすぐ1時か。ちょうどいい。行って起こしてくるよ。
青子は起こしたら殺すって言ってたけど。
Alice wasn't sure why Sojiro was willing to take such a risk. Sojiro agreed, but started walking away anyway.
でもさ、今起こしておかないと、やっぱり後で殺される運命にあると思うんだ。
His words were surprisingly affectionate. Leaving Alice with only that, Sojiro headed to Ako's room. Alice watched him leave in silence before taking another bite of the stir-fried noodles. Glancing at the door to the hallway to make sure nobody was coming, she took another bite. She repeated that process many times before finishing her food. It was then that she heard Ako's wrath coming from the second floor. Alice stood up and began solemnly cleaning the table, feeling a bit sorry for what Sojiro was doing with. She knew she didn't really have to, but she felt like it was the least she could do for him. She never really expected to feel this way. But he cooked it for her, and it was surprisingly good, almost enough to make her forget how bad he was at making tea. And there you have it. The chapter is done. Another archive book? Hold on, hold your horses. Are we going off on another tangent, a Martha type beat? Hold on. Oh my God, we went from Martha to this? What is this? What is this? So we have chapter 8.5. Did we do whiteboard? Is whiteboard what we're on now? Bro, this is so okay. Now we're on yeah, that scarred red. But the archive, we have 8.5 and whiteboard. So we'll do whiteboard and then we'll do 8.5. What was the last 0.5 was what? Where was it? That far ago? Yeah, 1.5 was the last ever 0.5. Right? I guess besides part 1 and part 2. I don't think it counts though. Yeah. Wow. Okay, we have another 0.5. Hey, this 0.5 was fire if I recall. These were all super good. So if we have another 0.5, I can't wait. But let's start with whiteboard. It's our girl. Okay. Oh, an unwritten schedule leaves both the process and results unsettled. Toki Julich.
失礼します。2の D のくまりです。
Kumari! I love her name so
体育館
much.
倉庫の鍵、職員室に返してきました。
Only Alko was present in the second student council room when Kojika Kumari entered.
お疲れ。
Kojika?
もうちょっと
Is
で
it
バイ
more
ト終わ
fat?
るから、そこ座ってて。
Alko was seated at a long table, surrounded by a pile of textbooks and using her pen to write rapidly. Huh? About the table were not school specified notebooks, but rather papers for writing reports.
何してんの、青崎。課題？それとも補習？どっちにしても真面目なこと。冬休み始まったばかりなのに。そりゃあこんなところで特別清掃なんかに付き合わされているけどさ。これは別件。知り合いの大学生から流してもらった代筆のバイト。何年も前に提出されたレポートを丸写しにして卒論クリアしようって話。写本ならぬ写レポートかよ。結構な量だなおい。それどこの大学生？まさか美空大じゃないでしょうね。
Kumari couldn't seem to hide her discomfort as she started thumbing through some of the reports next to Alko. The slightly brown tinged report had to be at least 10 years old.
そのまさかよ。知り合いの大学生なんてミゾラ以外にいるかっていうの。安心なさい。クマの兄貴たちからの仕事じゃないから。そもそもあんたの兄貴軍団、今年も残る気満々なんでしょ。クマ言わないで軍団もやめろ。
If you didn't know, Kuma directly translates into bear. So, this is a kind of cute nickname, but I'm assuming that your girl doesn't like it. Kumari, rather be referred to as Kumari, which is a very good name. I didn't need to do that. I
安心なさい。
apologize.
クマイ。
Her voice was snappy. Not that Alko could judge, but this girl's unfriendliness could even rival her own at times. Kumari's speech was dry enough as it was, and when she got riled up about something, she really let it all out. Apparently, she got it from her father. She was trying to work on it, but it was hard to fix an old habit she had since elementary school.
けどこれどうなのよ。丸写しにしても古すぎて通らないんじゃない？そこはそれ腐ってもパイというか。技術的に古い部分はピックアップしてあるからテキスト参考にして数字だけ変えておいてだってさ。何それ、本当にバカじゃないの。そこまで分かってるなら自分でやればいいのに。で、いつからやってるの？今日の朝から。半日の稼ぎにしちゃ悪くないわよ。レポート1冊分で1万円。生徒会長が内職かよ。道理で築地に監督を任せたわけだ。はい、他言は無用でお願いします。
Kumari relaxed a bit at Akko's pleasant response and decided to sit down in the nearest chair. The room was silent, save for the sound of scratching of Akko's point pen. The sky was clear blue, and there were boys in the rear courtyard playing baseball in their jerseys. With the special winter cleaning finished, it seemed they'd decided to start enjoying their free
こ
time.
の寒いのによくもまあ。ってあれ2年の男どもだ。
Said boys were playing in teams of 5, since they apparently could not get enough people together to play a proper game. It was a boring game of mostly strikeouts and poor hits, but they sure seemed to be having fun. Their yelling and hollering mostly consisted of bad words, surprised yells and crackling laughter.
あれ？ホウスケとしずきが一緒なのはわかるけど、築地も一緒じゃん。青崎、あいつら仲いいの？はあ？なんでよそのクラスの集まりに顔出してんのよあいつ。まあ裏山の清掃が終わってるなら文句はないけど。お、投げた。築地ピッチャーできるんだ。基本あいつは何でもできるからね。本人サボり症でめったに動かないけど本気出せば何だってこなすのよ。唯一足りない才能があるとしたら子供らしさってやつでしょうね。詳しいじゃない。青崎、築地と付き合ってるって本当？あいつと付き合うぐらいならあんたと付き合うわ。
I feel like you're insulting both of them. That's kind of messed up. Now that I think about it. Like dating him, I date someone like you before I dated him. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, what did Kumari do? You know what I mean? Like, Kumari might be dateable. Like, what do you mean by that?
顔のいい男は好きじゃないし、やっぱり男はシュワちゃんぐらいじゃないと。
I can be Australian. Huh? What?
シュワ、誰それ？グレートの方のコナンの主役やった人。
Me. She's talking about me. You guys never seen my face. You guys don't know who I am. Me.
へえ、顎割れてないとダメなんだ。青崎って面食いかと思ってたけど、ごっつい系が趣味なの？別にそういうわけじゃないけど。教訓よ、教訓。なよっとしたやつとか、やけに口がうまいやつとか、気軽な男はほんと信用ならないっていうか。
They continue their conversation, one staring at report pages and the other gazing out at the schoolyard. They had met in high school and soon grew to be friends who enjoyed chatting
青
together.
崎、冬休みはどうす
Did
る
you hear
予
that?
定ある？
I read together as together, bro. Oh, my knee hurt. That's all. That's my excuse.
一回ぐらいは遊びに行きたいんだけど、ちょい忙しくて。年明けに時間作るからそれまで待って。あ、B 組の山瀬さんたち誘う？確か去年も冬休みに上京してたでしょ、彼女ら。ああ、ありゃ私たちと系統が違う生粋のお嬢様だからね。青崎の趣味知ったらドン引きされるからやめといた方がいい。お、撃たれた。おお、柵越えた。あれってホームランってやつだ。やるじゃん、しずき。築地から一本取るなんて運動神経抜群ね。そりゃ山育ちだし、それぐらい取り柄がないと。来年の身体測定、飛び丸とトップ争うんじゃない？山じゃ2時間歩きっぱなしとかザラだったそうだし、水泳部じゃなく陸上部に紹介すればよかった。詳しいのね。もしかして付き合ってるのあっちとか。ああ、いや、さすがにないか。
The constant sound of Ako's ballpoint pen moving across the paper suddenly stopped. She stood up naturally from her seat, took a quick break to pour some fresh tea. Hello? Okay, I was pressing X a couple times on that. And returned to her work without acknowledging what had been said.
冬休みの予定だけど、くまり、何かリクエストある？別に。見たい映画が溜まってるだけ。こっちじゃ上映しない映画をはしごしたい。青崎は？私は新しい冬物と CD 買えればいいかな。あ、その前にまずは CD プレイヤーか。そろそろ3万円切るはずなのよ、あれ。はあ、新しいもの好きよね、あんた。CD なんて高いだけで騒がれてるのは今だけだってば。
Damn, she was kind of right. That's
大
crazy.
体
I mean,
音
they're
楽
still
なん
around.
てレン
you
タ
know.
ルしてカセットテープに落とせば500円で済むじゃない。ベータデッキみたいにそのうち廃れるって。
That's crazy. She said you could just pirate them, but she kind of right.
そう？私 CD は定番になると思うけどな。過去になるのはカセットテープの方よ、きっと。それはない、絶対ない。かけてもいい。だって CD で録音できないんでしょ。そんなのにカセットテープが負けるはずない。クマは保守派だからな。政権交代は何にだってあるでしょうに。でもまあ、その賭け乗った。生徒会の歴史に書いておくからね。10年、いえ5年後を楽しみにしていましょう。5年後か。いいね。ちょうど大学の終わりだ。青崎、東京の大学に行くんでしょ？どこ志望してるのか教えてよ。実はまだ決めてないのよ。上京したいのは山々なんだけど。ありゃ意外。あんたのことだから向こう3年分ぐらいスケジュール組んでると思ったのに。
Akko laughed. Is that dryly? At the obvious jab. Akko knew what direction she wanted her life to go in, but she didn't usually think too much about the details. Once she made a decision, she followed through with that. That was why she didn't actually write out a schedule.
クマ、終わったら駅前のラーメン屋付き合ってよ。体力使ったからなんかお腹減ってきた。そこは頭使ったから甘いもの食べたくなったにしといた方が女らしいと思うけどね。いいよ、うちでいいならサービスしとくけど、寄ってく？もちろん、持つべきものは女の友情。
Girls waited patiently for winter vacation to start in the student council room. Their free time after school was spent through this kind of frivolous conversation. Akko spent her nights as a mage and her days as a normal high school student. The conversations she had with her friends were no different from any other girl her age. She enjoyed both aspects of her life equally, even if one of those involved fighting against mortal enemies.
ところで青崎、さっきの掛け金はどうする？そうね、私も鬼じゃないし、その時の貯金1割で手を打つわ。根こそぎ奪う
10%
の
is
は勘弁してあげ
nuts.
る。
Alco is evil. She wasn't lying. But fundamentally, she was still an imp at heart.
なんかゾワッときたな、今。
Victim A whispered quietly after sneezing.
なんだよ、風邪でもひいたか、しずき。よし、じゃあこんなとこで野球やっててもしょうがねえし、街に繰り出すとしましょうか。
This was their fourth game of five-man baseball. They gained some spectators since starting an hour ago, and were playing special rules where infield grounders were called out when caught, and home runs were rewarded with leftover sweet red bean soup cans. Hulsuke Kinomi had gotten bored once he realized it was still going to be at a while until it was his turn to play. I'm sorry.
お前ほんと猿だったんだな。先立つものがねえから野球やろうぜって言い出したのはてめえだろうが。
それはそれ、これはこれっしょ。だって A 組のやつらとか集まってきたしさ、俺あいつら嫌いだしさ、なんかノリが合わないっていうか。
安心しろ、あっちもてめえとは合わねえとよ。いい機会じゃねえか。気に食わないんなら試合で片付けてやれよ。こっちも本気でやってやるから。
Torimaru calmly punched back down at Kinomi while practicing his pitching at the wall. He was throwing harder than usual, maybe he was angry because of that home run he gave up earlier. He was in Class A and had taken on the role of captain for the other boys from Class A who showed up to play.
ちょっと待った。そりゃ誤解だぜ、殿下。俺たち、木の実結構好きよ。バカなところとか、平気で女連中の品評会開くところとか、合コン企画するところとか、真似できねえよ、ほんと。
All the other boys in Class A nodded affirmative.
ざけんな！てめえらいつも美味しいところだけ持っていきやがって。カラオケ会開いてよ、女の子と遊びたいよなんて甘えてきやがって。なんで気がついたら俺一人だけで会計してたの？一緒にテニス部覗きに行ったのにどうして俺だけ悪者なの？もしかして利用されてるだけってそろそろ気がついていいの？やべ、まだ気づいてなかった。本物だ。
ごめん、木の実のおかげで僕にも彼女ができました。彼女の口癖は木の実くんよりマシよです。
てめえら本気でムカつく。青くせえ学生生活を送ってんじゃね
え。Kinomi took his bat and swung it around as he chased after the boys in Class A. They seemed to be having fun running from him while he was sarcastically thinking that. While they were sarcastically thinking. One of Kinomi's best virtues was his ability to remain good-natured in the face of insults.
木の実は人気者だな。
ああ、バカなのが救いだな。あれで下手に利口だったら犯罪者になってるところだ。いや、その前に今度こそ青崎に締められるか。あいつ小ずるいチンピラには容赦ねえからな。
そうなのか。今度こそ。
Sojiro fell deep into thought. From the way that sounded, Kinomi seemed to have, sorry, I got a notification, have some kind of history with Alko Aozaki. I
木の
mean,
実は青崎にその消そうしてたことがあるのか。
あ、消そう。あ、消そうか。あのバカにそんな風情があるかって。ちょいとな、青崎と木の実には条件反射じみた事件があったんだよ。ありゃ入学式のことだ。そうだよな、木の実。
Kinomi froze and glanced back at Tobimaru's provocation.
ああ、入学式な。すげえ体してる女子がいたからさ、つい声をかけたんだよな。彼女、どのクラスって。いや、でもまさか手が出るとは思わなかった。俺的には1センチ前で寸止めしようとしたんだけど、目測を誤った。俺の視覚情報より青崎の肉体のサイズがやや勝っていたということさね。
Kinomi laughed loudly as he gazed up at the sky. That was all the explanation Shojiro needed to know what really happened that day of the entrance ceremony. Why is his face so serious? Oh my god. Did I update the game or something? Why is Sojiro's portraits, they all feel so different? What in the world? Man.
なぜ命がある木の実。
だろう、俺の顎垂直に跳ね上がったんだぜ。平手とか拳とかそういうレベルじゃねえの。下からギャーンだぜ、ギャーン。周りにいたギャラリー曰く、プールで縦に沈めたビート板が浮上するように青崎の靴がひらめいたらしい。今だから言いますけど、俺あの後の記憶がすっぽりないのです。
Rubbing his jaw, Kinomi returned to the other side. Tired of wasting his energy chasing after the Class A boys.
そんなことより遊びに行こうぜ。殿下金持ってるだろう。おごってくれよ。
たく、まあ映画なら考えないこともない。ちょうど見たい映画あんだよ。映画の内容より見終わった後に文句言い合う方が楽しい部類の B 級でな。犠牲者が必要なんで、この際てめえでもいいぞ。
やだ、映画とかつまんねえよ。大の男がさ、2時間も同じところ座ってられねえって。そんなんだったらゲーセンかコンビニの駐車場で駄菓子食ってる方が楽しいって。
お前それ今の状況と何が違うんだ。
いいんだよ、外でだべってれば楽しいんだって。あ、それともバンドでもやるか。今 UK ロックが熱い。バイト先の先輩にパンクロックなら誰でもできると聞いた。
ああ、そうかよ。ファッションにならねえようにな。
This was the rear courtyard during the Vinta vacation. Vinta? Kinomi and Tobimaru spent their relaxing, reprieved chattering away about nothing of much substance.
じゃあナンパ。駅前でナンパしようぜ。殿下がいれば年上のお姉さんも釣れるし。そうだ、お金がないならレディーたちにおごってもらえばいいんじゃない？
その年で紐か。てめえの人生設計明るすぎて頭痛がするぜ。
俺将来の展望だけはできてるからね。なあしずき、お前からも言ってやれよ。ナンパに行こうって、女の子たちと楽しく騒ごうって。殿下は立ってるだけでいいし、しずきだって年上のお姉さんから見たら弟属性っていうの。うまくいけばこう、俺の時みたいに1時間後には一冬のアバンチュール。
Kinomi's hands were flailing around in excitement, dancing around like so many waving tentacles. Sorry. His mind was apparently still swimming in the memories of a golden time he had once had. Anyway.
木の実、その時なんて言ったんだ？
え？ああ、その時の決め台詞ね。お姉さん綺麗っすね。俺そこのビルのオーナーの息子なんすけど、ちょっと遊んでいきませんって。
I don't get it. This dude's a trip.
嘘だってバレたら逃げられたけどな。
そうじゃなくて入学式。
He's still on that. Understandable.
あ、そっちか。青崎の首から下の部分に向かって うわ、お前胸でかくね？
He let out a loud guffaw. I don't know what that's about. As he recalled his stories. His lack of intelligence and propriety was truly remarkable, or rather mind-boggling. Nonetheless, Kinomi was now in high spirits after recalling this exciting memory. Conversely, Sojiro was standing in complete sullen silence.
どうしたしずき？あ、やっぱりナンパとか興味ないか。
当たり前だ。てめえみたいな色ボケと宗十郎を一緒にするな。
いや、興味はある。可愛い女の子は可愛いと思うし、たまに薄着なところに出くわすと目のやり場に困るだろう。ああいう時、自分が男だってことを実感するよな。
His words shot through the air like a bolt of lightning. It was shocking when a kid sees the head of a character at an amusement park fall off, revealing the person inside.
そりゃそうだよな。すまん、見くびっていた。つまりしずきも俺たちの同志ってことでいいんだな。
同志？
そうだ。例えばこう夏場の女子のうなじに光る汗とか、テニス部の女子の肩から脇にかけての清涼感とか、ぶっちゃけ水泳部の競泳水着の後ろ姿だよ。
Sojo's eyes were filled with question marks. Apparently, he hadn't quite understood Kinomi's explanation.
いやだから、普段は同い年のガキにしか見えない女どもでも、たまに見せる無防備な仕草とかグッとくるよな。
うん。無防備なのはちょっと考えてほしい。
Whether it was because Sojiro was unsure if Kinomi was referring to someone in particular, or whether he was just concerned about how this related to himself, a troubled look washed over his face.
いいんだって、それでいいんだって。なぜなら高校生男子の6割は性欲でできていますからね。
60 is nuts. Word?
よし、そうと決まれば早速ナンパに行こうぜ。メンツが変われば超過も変わるってもんだ。
And with that, he happily put his arm around Sojiro's shoulders and headed off towards the train.
ちょっと待て。あまりのことに絶句しちまったが、てめえは根本的に間違ってる。宗十郎、そもそもナンパって言葉が何なのか知ってるか？ん
Question. Define pickup. To answer a telephone call, to recite a Shakespearean work, to transport someone from one place to another, to pay someone's bill, to try and persuade someone to have a romantic relationship.
2番か。
Huh? Wrong. 9 times out of 10, when a bunch of high schoolers were talking about picking up girls, hold on.
宗十、
What was 2? To recite a Shakespearean work? What the hell is wrong with you?
2番か。
What? I thought this was gonna be one of the choice things, but no, apparently not.
ほら見ろ。てめえとは興味の度合いが違うんだよ。女引っ掛けに行くなら一人で行け。なあ、あと岬の駅前はやめとけよ。うちの評判が悪くなるから。ナンパなら隣町でやりやがれ。
Tabimaro waved his hand at Kinomi as if he was shooing away a pest. Kinomi clicked his tongue in frustration and moved his arm around Sojiro's shoulder.
くそ面白くねえ。あいよ、おとなしく野球やってますよ。いつの間にか俺たちの番が回ってきたみたいだし。
Please don't tell me I actually had a choice, because I don't understand. I just kept pressing X. I didn't see. And when I pressed down, it went to the next page anyway, so he complained all the way to the picture's mouth. Sojiro looked at her on regretfully.
おい、まさか本気でナンパに行きたかったのか？
いや、ナンパはよくわからないけど、街には用があったんだ。ちょっと欲しいものがあって。そうだ、飛び丸。 生徒会室にあるあの白いやつ、どこに行けば買えるか知ってるか？
Sojiro spread his arms wide, making a bizarre gesture. 1 hour later, at the department store in front of the train station, Kamimura was still confused after he figured out what Sojiro
し
wanted to
か
buy.
し、なんだってこんなものを。
The Koonji estate was surprisingly comfortable for all 3 of its occupants this evening. Maybe it was because the dinner Alice had prepared was so wonderful. Huh?
7回？アリスの実家じゃ1日に7回も食事をとるのか？一体どうやって？
Sojiro asked Alice this question in the sunroom from the 3rd sofa, brought up from the mansion's basement by himself.
食事をとっているわけじゃないわ。ティータイムは1日7回行うのが理想というだけ。寝起きのアーリー、朝食のブレックファースト、午前の11時ズ、午後のミディティーブレイク、午後の社交会アフタヌーン、夜会のハイティー、ディナー後のアフターディナー。この中で食事に該当するのはハイティーだけよ。田舎での話だけれど。
Alice was enjoying her black tea by herself in the sunroom. She was drinking a royal blend, a fine blend of Da Shehrin, Soryo, and Assam, orange, Pakol, tea leaves. To occupy her tea, she had some strawberries dipped in sugar. She was in a world of her own.
つまり一日中お茶を飲んでいるのか？
そうね。そう暮らせるのなら理想的ね。
She couldn't understand why this was so hard for Sojiro to grasp. Alice picked up a strawberry with her slender fingers and carried it to her mouth as if she was trying to give it a kiss. Sojiro was briefly transfixed by this graceful sight and shook his head to clear his thoughts. He had become slightly too sensitive to the fact that they were indeed of the opposite sex, perhaps due to his conversation earlier that day.
でもその口ぶりだとアリスは7回できてないんだ。
3回が限度よ。相方が未熟だからやらなくちゃいけないことが増えてしまって。
相方。
Sojiro's mind is in the gutter at this point. Sojiro turned to look at his side. There he saw.
何よ、1日3回も開いてれば上出来じゃない。うちの生徒会なんて黙ってお茶飲んでるだけよ。いちいち鍋からお湯沸かしてポット使ってたっぷり蒸らすなんて3時のおやつと夕食後だけで十分でしょ。アリスは手間をかけすぎ。私贅沢は好きだけど贅沢になれるのはごめんだから。
Even though Aoko was arguing, she still seemed to be in a good mood.
贅沢なのは青子たちの方よ。日本の水道水はこんなにも美味しいのに、どうしてあなたたちはこの黄金の価値に気づかないのかしら。
1日7回もお茶会開く国民性じゃないからでしょ。気をつけなさいね、宗十郎。美味しい紅茶を入れようとしてペットボトルの水なんて買ってきたらアリスに1時間近くお説教されるから。知識も心構えもなってないって。
It was true that better water should be made. I should make a better cup of tea. That was why Aoko went out and bought bottles of natural spring water as soon as she moved into the Kyoji estate. Her proud show and tell to Alice had led to their first petty argument. The two were exhausted after quarreling about something one would think wasn't nearly as significant as magecraft.
青崎さん、夕食を作る気力残ってる？
パス。主義に反するけどてんやものを頼んでみよう。
And that had been her first time ordering from a soba noodle shop by phone.
パス。主義に反するけどてんやものを頼んでみよう。 And that had been her first time ordering from a soba noodle shop by phone.
「 their slovenly attitude towards household chores had only accelerated since then.
いやー、あの後は悔しくってお茶について調べまくったもんだわ。アリスに質問したり競い合ってたらいつの間にか私も紅茶党の仲間入りよ。私、姉貴の影響で中学までコーヒー党だったのに。
そこには感謝しているわ。青子が連れ出してくれなかったらコープランドのアンティークカップに出会えなかったもの。
気がついたら骨董品回りしてたものね、去年の私たち。
The drawing room and the sunroom. Though they were not even in the same room, the two were enjoying a fun, lively conversation nonetheless. Sojiro wondered why they didn't just sit together and chat in the drawing room since they got along so well. He didn't yet understand how the physical distance between them made those stories of old memories more meaningful.
アリスは外に出ない子だったんだ。
ええ、この子ったらほんと屋内派で外に出るのは学校だけだったんだから。今日だってずっと洋館にいたんでしょ、アリス。
違うわ。外に用がないだけよ。今日はプロイの補充に忙しかっただけだし。
それだ。プロイの補充ってことは遊園地の時みたいなのはここで生まれてるのか？
Ever since that terrible incident, Sojiro had been sensitive whenever poise came up. He'd only been worried about escaping with his life at that time, but as time passed, what were those mysterious things? He became filled with
Nani?
curiosity.
知りたい、宗十郎。
教えてくれるなら知りたいけど、いや、よく考えると聞かない方がいいような。
よし、そういうことなら話してあげましょう。ちょっとした触りだけなら怒らないわよね、アリス。
Akko quickly recrossed her legs in anticipation.
私とあなたの違いを話すぐらいならいいけど。
よし、決まった。って何よあんた、妙な顔して。自分から言っておいて尻尾巻くの？
いや、そうではなく。
Sojiro diverted his eyes at Alko's direct stare. Sojiro and Alko currently only spent time together after dinner. Every once in a while, however, he would catch a glimpse of some innocent gesture of hers and wouldn't know how to
いいんだ、
respond.
続けてくれ。興味はある。
よし、じゃあコマドリ呼ばないとね。それでは特別授業、なぜなにプロイキッシャー始まり始まり。
Akko snapped her fingers. Apparently, she was trying to mimic turning on the switch to a TV. It was a veritable TV special. That's how a lecture about a certain brand of magecraft, performed and directed by Alice Kunji, first aired. Unfortunately, the special production was canceled only 30 minutes after it began. Apparently, the content had been a little too esoteric for Sojiro.
分かってはいたけど、しずきくんの覚えの悪さは三千世界に響き渡るわね。
She almost said he was better off dead, but took a deep breath to avoid being hurt.
かわいそうなアリス。さすがに今回は同情するわ。
At least we have the music, right?
そいつにとっちゃ私の魔術もアリスの魔術もすごく便利でくくられちゃうものだなんて、他の魔術師が聞いたら失神者の屈辱よ。
Alko was exasperated. Oh man. She also felt some measure of regret. She should have realized this would have been the outcome.
そんなことはない。ちゃんと区別はつく。青崎は壊すだけで、アリスはいろんなものを作ってそれで壊すんだろ。アリスの方がやや生産的だ。
怖いわ青子。私どうしてか胸が苦しい。 こういうことって本当にあるのね。まるでお気に入りのカップを割ってしまった時、通りかかったキリンに「でもトロルよりマシですよ」と慰められた気分だわ。
どういう意味よそれ。
Akko glared at Alice sitting across from her. Alice had alluded to a fairy tale about the less than intelligent giant who lived under the bridge.
今の宗十郎の指摘結構合ってると思うけど、私アリスのプロイが生活の役に立つとこ見たことないし、コマドリも双子も最後はドジって終わりじゃない。
それは結果論よ。役立とうという諸子は尊重するべきだわ。だいたいあれやそれが最後に全部台無しにするのは私の責任じゃないのだし。
Both girls were now just intent on calling the other out. It seemed neither wanted to admit their own shortcomings when it came to magecraft. Even when it came down to a silly argument about who was the worst at breaking things.
いや、でもアリスの使い魔は役に立ってるぞ。前に森で落ち葉を集めている豚を見かけた。あれはアリスの使い魔なのに、なんで青崎に言ってやらないんだ？まあ、いいことをしたのに黙っているのは美徳だって山城先生は言ってたけど。
Alice had simply sent chatty twins out to the forest to break them in, as it were. To Sojiro, this had seemed like a good deed. Akko was visibly getting more fed up with the conversation since Sojiro had decided Alice was the victor here.
掃除をしているから生産的とか、ずいぶん小さな判断ですこと。もっとこう大きな視点で評価できないのかしらね、このお掃除マシーンは。
大きな視点。例えばお金儲けとか。
The two girls both tried to remain calm in the face of such a direct question. Even a fool could think of a good idea sometimes.
呆れた。我ながらその発想はなかったわ。盲点すぎたっていうか、基本魔術って損失しか生まないものだから。
Alice nodded affirmatively, sorry.
それで例えばあなたから見て私の魔術はどんな金策ができると思う？
青崎ならそうだな、マグロを捕まえるのはどうだろう。
He's halfway there. Silence. Akko adjusted the position of her crossed legs.
なんでマグロ？
She asked this question seriously.
いや、朝一で大変高価だと聞いた。でも捕まえるのは難しいって。あんな巨大なものが水の中では車より速く泳ぐと。
そりゃ地球が誇る大型肉食魚だからね。お寿司屋さんでも最強だし、平均時速60キロ、マックススピードは時速180キロに迫ると聞くわ。
Tuna? I'm thinking of the wrong thing. I have to be.
部長曰く
Whoops.
青崎は泳ぎがうまいって。泳いで捕まえられないか？
もう魔術関係ないわねそれ。仮にマダンで迎撃できたとしても保存できないわ。私回転を早めるのが専門で止めるのはちょっと。アリスは？
魚は苦手。
This is why Alice is my girl. That's what I'm saying. Alice quietly added that some of them were oddly interesting to her, so she wouldn't feel comfortable harming them. Akko shrugged her shoulders, throwing that idea to the
と
side.
ころで喧嘩売ってる？しずきくん。
すまない。実はちょっとからかってみた。
The collar around his neck tightened for a good 5 seconds. It was as tight as the
と
sleepers.
まあ青崎には乱暴なことしか期待できないとして、 アリスはどうなんだ？何も言わないということは魔術でお金儲けは気に入らない？
そうね。好き嫌いはともかくお金があるのはいいことだわ。教会の目をくぐり抜けることができるなら青子には頑張ってほしい。
危ない目に遭うのは私だけか。アリスのプロにはなんかないの？土食べたら金に変換するようなカバとか。ほら、中世の貴族はお抱えの錬金術師で日夜金を作り出す研究をしてたって言うじゃない？
あれはただの金食い虫。まあ騙した貴族たちの貯蓄を食いつぶして新しい技術を生み出したから無意味ではなかったけど、このマイセンももともとは金を作ると豪語した錬金術師が苦し紛れに生んだ時期なわけだし。
Alice ran a finger along the edge of her teacup, or of the teacup in her hand.
はあ、錬金術師ほど当てにならないやつはいないってわけか。今じゃプラハの錬金術師は証券魔術師、エジプトの方は兵器作ってるって話だしね。
ええ、ちょっと期待してしまったけど、もともと私たちは現実社会と折り合いが悪いのよ。ロンドンの名門になると家訓と授業は別物と割り切っていて、金融専門の弟子を取っているわ。噂だけど、ある財閥の総帥は社員全員の血を吸って情報を共有するネットワークを作っているとか。何でも吸血鬼になった理由が精神的につながった決して内部闘争しない紹介を作りたいからだったとか。
極まってるな。要はそこまで徹底しないと魔術でお金儲けは難しいってことか。アリスのプロイで遊園地をやるのはどう？
Sojiro clapped his hands together in
それ
excitement.
はいい。襲われるのはもうゴリゴリだけど、あの遊園地なら連日連夜大盛況だ。
私のプロイを見せ物にする気？
でも大受けよ、絶対。ロボットって言い張ればみんな騙されるし。
却下よ青子。この話もう一度したら絶好だから。
本気で怒らせたか。だってさ、宗十郎、遊園地は諦めましょう。今度こそ友情を失っちゃうし。
Akko backed down after Alice's cold rejection of the idea. Small talk continued, but the girls grew more distant as they tried to avoid further conflict. Sojiro looked at the two with a perplexed expression.
ちょっといいかな。今猛烈に気になったんだが。
何？
いや、青崎もアリスも遊園地で本気で殺し合っただろう。それなのにまだ友達だったのか？
It was certainly a rude question to ask, but it was an obvious thing to ask. Alco and Alice looked at each other as they thought of the answer. They stared at each other for about 2 seconds. That definitely is not English what they put, but I can read, so I do what I need to do.
ギリギリあり？
Facts. That truer words have never been spoken.
まあギリギリ。
ありなんだ。
Though their friendship was surprisingly lighthearted, it also seemed to be forged from bonds harder than steel. Their long and extended tea party had just started to get going when Sojiro had to leave. He didn't really want to since he was enjoying himself, but he couldn't miss his part-time
2
job.
時間も話してたなんて珍しいわね。アリスもいつになく饒舌だったし。
成り行きよ。しずきくんがあれこれ青子に質問して、あなたがそれを私にも向けてきただけ。ほんと、私たちが一日何をしているのかなんて聞いても仕方がないのに。
いや、それがそうでもない。大変。
Soju was carrying something down the hallway, ignoring Ako's surprise. It was a large whiteboard. The whiteboard! Much like the one in the student council room. On the shiny new whiteboard was written, chores list, mansion cleaning, 1F, East Wing only, breakfast, dinner, cleaning the bath.
なんかいろいろと詮索してくると思ったら、そういう裏があったわけ？
うん。歪みを正したかったら、まずどこがおかしいのか知らないといけないからね。今夜の話じゃ、2人とも1日に1時間ぐらいは使える時間があるみたいだし、3人で1つの台所を使ってるんだから、ローテーションを組んだ方がいいだろう。協力できるところは協力しないと。
Soju was clearly proud of his attempt to make things better around here.
待って。私はあなたを住まわせているだけで協力なんてする気はないって言ったでしょ。
うん、言ったね。でも夕食を用意するなら私の分もお願いと言いたいのなら、相互扶助は当然の義務だと思うんだ。あと3人で食費を集めれば、その分美味しいものが食べられるよ。
Soju's words pierced Alice's heart. She knew she had asked him to make dinner for her on many occasions. It was a carefully planned attack designed to make her repent for her sins. She knew it.
でもホワイトボードを用意することはないんじゃない？当番なんて今まで口約束で決めてきたんだし。
Alice nodded her agreement. Alice nodded her agreement, yes. There was nothing less reliable in this world than a verbal promise. Sorry. Even if they didn't say so. Wow. What is happening? Why? Give me a second. I don't know. All of a sudden. It's the whiteboard. It's the whiteboard. Okay, sorry. Oh, what the hell? Oh, what in the world? Persona 3 saved me? Okay. Whew. Even if they didn't say so, Soju could tell by the look on their faces that they intended to skip out on whatever task they were assigned to do.
ダメだ。正しい生活を送るには正しい役割を把握しないと。こういう風に書いておけば後になっても忘れないだろう。
Ako recoiled at this new development. She couldn't tell if Soju was just being nice or if he was saying he couldn't tolerate any slackers.
なんてこと。
Oh my god,
証
Alice.
明文を書かせて責任の所在を明らかにしようだなんて。
Alice is absolutely terrified at the prospect of daily chores.
決まりだな。誰がどこを担当するかはまた明日話し合おう。今の2人が大変なのは分かってるから、しばらくの間はこっちが多めに受け持つよ。
And with that, Sojiro left. The two girls left behind could only sit and stare, stunned at the shiny new whiteboard.
こういうのを飼い犬に手を噛まれるというのかしら。
知ってた。私、あいつがそういうやつって知ってたわ。
But now it was too late. They'd already been caught in the trap. Just this morning, Ako had received a portion of the salad Sojiro prepared. She knew it would be wrong for her to veto the idea of them all helping each other out. The concept of dividing up specific chores made perfect sense to Ako after all. Even so, she wanted to be able to tip the ratio of the chores in her favor, at least sometimes.
青子、あなた何を考えているか丸分かりよ。
そうでしょうとも。間違いなく同じことを考えてたからね、私たち。
Ako sighed as she grabbed the whiteboard. She was going to hang it up in the kitchen so that they could all see it. What the hell? Why are her eyes open so much? Alice was staring at the whiteboard blankly.
せめて新しい項目が増えなければいいけど。
She would come to regret even saying those words. Fair enough. That is the end of the first year at the Kyunji Estate number 2. What is this? The Wonderful World of Ploys 1 and 2 extra? Are we almost done with the game? Why is it? No, because there's so many more bookshelves open. I almost started to, but the main villain hasn't even really been set up yet. Like, no. Like, no. Yeah, no way we're even close to being done with the game, but we are done with this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Witch on the Holy Night. I'm cutting it a little bit short, not only because I know the next chapter is probably going to be like another 2 hours long, and I also have to get this out by Sunday, and I'm currently recording on Sunday at 12 o'clock in the morning, so that's nice. Gotta get some sleep, wake up, edit the video, and get it out to you guys, maybe at 7, because these do take a long time to process, and editing it is literally just me watching it for an hour, but that's nothing you guys have to worry about. That's all on me. It's all on me. Don't worry about it. But yeah, love this. Love it every time we come back. It's an amazing experience. Love the music. Love the story. It's so fun. It's so serious sometimes, but these, I'm telling you, Sojiro, Alice, and Aoko are just great characters to be centered around. I can't wait till the conflict starts. Like, we already know what the conflict is, where it's this, we know that that girl that Sojiro saw at the gambling place, there's something up with her, but also these puppets that have been sent out to cause mischief around the Misaki area is where the conflict is starting. But we don't know why they're doing it or anything about the main villain, to be honest. We just saw them that one time. So it's going to be interesting once they start developing her and we start seeing her more. And yeah, we've been reading a lot of the side chapters, and from Martha to this one that we just read, I love them. They're so fun. They're so interesting. So I don't know if those were always in the original Witch on the Holy Night or were they added in with the remake. Like, did they just start throwing more stuff in there, just extra stuff just for fun? But other than that, wow, it's just an amazing experience. I hope you guys enjoy it. There's a lot of support. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Heath Bridget Tone. Remember, there's no such thing as hard, just how long you want to fight.